Hi everyone, and good Sunday morning to you. It's Wendy, and I am thrilled to be here live in studio with you this Sunday morning. Thanks so much for spending this time with us. What a week we have had. The United States elected a new president, and we in the free world feel like we were very much a part of that election and contributed to it. And I have a very special guest in studio with me this morning. She's my colleague here on Heartbeat Radio. You guys know her voice phenomenally well, but many of you also know her, Natacha Jones, the one and only. You know, she is just as gorgeous as her voice is, as many of her fans and colleagues can testify. And she's turning the tables on me a little bit this morning.
So good morning to everyone. I'm really
Welcome,
looking forward to
Natacha.
this. Thank you, thank you. I'm sure all of us want to take a glimpse into Wendy Fitzwilliams' world, as we like to say, Weniverse, your universe, because you know the most phenomenal people. But I'll let you continue, and then we will do a really good interview, and then hopefully we will be able to open the phone line so that people can actually connect with you.
That's
personally.
right. As I said, Natasha's flipped the tables on me a little bit, and I am being interviewed on my own show. Can you imagine that?
That's
Which is very cool, actually. So let's take in another song now. You know, it's the start of that time of year. We're getting ready for Christmas, and this week we celebrate Diwali. You know, which is one of the most special festivals here in Trinidad and Tobago. As a kid, I've always participated in Diwali, and I look forward to the festival again this year. Elan and I are going to be all over this country taking in the lights.
Elan is here in the studio with us today. So good morning to you, Elan.
Good morning.
Good. So, yes, and we have a beautiful piece of music here from Michael Bublé. And yeah, it's beginning to look a lot like
beginning
Christmas.
to look a lot like Christmas, isn't it, Natasha?
It is, and an exciting time. And we're here with Wendy Fitzwilliams, the one and only. And you know, Wendy has had the most interesting journey, and she is connected with the most interesting and influential people. We listen to her every Sunday from 10 to 11 and hear all the discussion between amazing people like one of my favorites, Susan Taylor. That was an incredible interview. Susan Taylor was the editor of Essence magazine. People like Heather Headley, who you seem to know personally. People like Donald Trump. I mean, the list goes on. And to have gotten to this point, you know, there has to have been a beginning. So let's start at the beginning, Wendy. First, I want to understand a little bit about you. I think our listeners would be very interested to find out a little bit about your journey, about, you know, where you came from, your family, and you know, how has that, your family life, informed and shaped you now?
You know, Natasha mentioned this a couple of times before, but I always give a lot of thanks to my very humble but confident parents, you know, for raising my sister and I very much as individuals. As a family, yes, but there's never been any ugly competition between my sister and I. You know, they always, whatever we wanted to do, they supported us fully. Also, they never cleaned up our mess. They made us clean up our mess ourselves. Very supportive, always there to support. But, you know, we got to make decisions from a very early age. I used the example of, at the time, common entrance. You know, most kids, their parents choose the subjects they put down as their 4 choices in terms of secondary schools. My mom and dad allowed us, Denise and I, to choose our schools ourselves. My sister put only first choice schools. St. Joseph's Convent number 1, SAGS number 2, Holy Name 3, and Bishop's 4th. And Mommy said, darling,
Bishop's 4th.
Bishop's her 4th choice. And Mommy said, you know, darling, you're really not giving the government of Trinidad and Tobago a choice here. If you don't nail this exam and get 95% or more in everything, you're going to go to a junior secondary school because you basically said to them, it's number 1 or nothing. And Diani said, fine. So Mommy allowed her, you know, Mommy and Daddy allowed her to. Most parents would not. Most parents would have said, okay, you choose 2, I'll choose the other 2. And I think that just epitomizes the kind of support relationship we've had with our parents. Fortunately, Dianice did pass for her first choice. She worked very hard, you know, but Mommy constantly reminded her during that year that it was all up to her. And then as well, I grew up here in Trinidad and Tobago, and only when you leave this country, you can appreciate the diversity that is Trinidad and Tobago. In many ways, we are very savvy as a result, but you don't appreciate it while you live here because you take it for granted.
This is true.
You know, street food in Trinidad and Tobago comprises of food from at least 4 continents. There is no place else except perhaps New York City and now London that didn't obtain in the UK years ago. Now in London, you can get on the street food from 4 or 5 continents. You know, we take that for granted. You know, because we're a small island, you know, I lived in New York City for some time, and in New York, you know, there are many Jewish holidays. October is locked down because of the Jewish holidays, and yet few non-Jews understand fully the Jewish holidays. Many of them don't even know what they are. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, this week we are celebrating Diwali. We are all celebrating Diwali. I am born and bred Catholic, and I celebrate Diwali with the same enthusiasm as my Hindu brothers and sisters.
That's right.
You know, those little things we take for granted. I think that has very much informed who I am. The other thing about us that I think is very special is, you know, my neighborhood. Diamond Vale is still one of the most magical places on planet Earth. And why? Because it does not segregate the population like many other neighborhoods do. It's not only very wealthy people, poor people. It's a cross-section of all of Trinidad and Tobago, you know. So I grew up with, you know, my father being a fireman, soldiers, civil servants, ministers of government, doctors, business people, up-and-coming young business people, still to this day start in Diamond Vale. You know, and the composition of the neighborhood, the physical composition of that neighborhood as well. Yes, it's government housing, but you know, we still have one of the most active, beautiful pools and tennis courts in any community.
What I like about
little
it
things
is
like
the
that.
community.
It's
I mean,
a true community.
I visited it, and I can tell you, when one of my friends, a little son, goes down the road and is misbehaving, you can see auntie is going to put you in your place and send you back home and come and tell your mother.
That's right.
You know, how you misbehave.
Still to this day, if I do something that my neighbors love, you know, I talk about them in my book. I talk about them constantly because, you know, I do have 2 biological parents, but I have 4 parents, truly in total. And those are my neighbors in the Vale, you know, 4 dads, 4 moms. And they do really pick up the slack, you know. If they see or hear anything they're proud of, they let me know. And if they think that I have expressed an opinion or done something that they're not thrilled with, they still let me know.
Well, you know, as we talk about how your journey with your family and your support has shaped you, you know, there's so many hats that you wear: entrepreneur, author, apart from being Miss Universe 1998, you're also a mother, an attorney, you've been a model. You had so many hats, but of that, your upbringing must have shaped your parental skills. How are you with your 6-year-old son, Elon, now?
Ooh, I.
Do you
How
give
am
him
I
as
with it?
much autonomy as your parents did?
Yes, definitely. Sometimes mommy may argue a little too much. You know, because he is a boy, he's their only grandchild. So, you know, the mommy particularly is very protective
Right.
of him. I'm like, no, let him do it. You know, once he isn't going to kill himself in the process, let him go for it. But we do have a really good relationship, and I think it's reflective of my relationship with my parents. You know, as I said to mom shortly after Aiden was born, only now I get her. Only now I can appreciate, you know, who mommy is. My mom was very strict. Daddy was the like, yeah, sure, parent.
It's too good.
As is, I know, as is often the case. Mommy's nickname was the anti-drug campaign because all she did was say no. I mean, you know, we gave her a really hard time. But now I appreciate, you know, her strict upbringing, the discipline she instilled in my sister and I, that never give up, which we learned very much from our dad. You know, my father still is a very, very hard worker. He's retired, but not.
Right.
He's just one of those guys. And both Dionyse and I are very much like Daddy in that regard. And we persevere with tunnel vision. You know, we make it look easy, but it's not. And I don't attempt to do everything at the same time either. You know, now I'm focused on being a good parent and moving, as I said before, into media and entertainment. You know, those things are full-time jobs.
Yeah. Are you still a practicing lawyer though?
I've never been a practicing lawyer.
You've never been?
I've never practiced law in the traditional sense.
Okay.
You know, but legal education is something you never not use.
Right.
You know, always, always, always. You know, whether it's negotiating a spokesperson's contract with a company or, you know, or contracts for an appearance in Los Angeles as the BQ Girls. It doesn't matter what it is. You always use your legal education.
Okay. Well, which segues into, you know, you've gone from academic
Yes.
to beauty queen. What are some of the challenges that you've had to face, if any?
Ooh, you know, there have been, and there, regardless of what you do, there always are. As you know, a young law student, I didn't take pageantry terribly seriously. As a matter of fact, my lecturers at Cave Hill laughed hysterically when I won Miss Universe because, you know, when this campus tried to introduce a Miss Cave Hill, I was one of those saying, "Come on, we're an institution of higher learning. This is so archaic, blah blah."
But why did you say that though? And what have you learned
From that? Because I was not the biggest fan of pageants, so I thought, you know, they were slightly archaic and just sort of sex and superficial. Not so much sexist, but just superficial and very narcissistic, meaning it was all about the celebration of self. And if you look at what comes out, particularly of the US market, because they're open with it, not that they have a greater problem necessarily than others, they start their young women in pageantry so early. So by the time they get to their teens, they're so self-absorbed. And just, you know, families would spend their entire income on getting the one daughter whose eyes are perfectly spaced.
Yeah, well, what I would say, sexist
into this
is,
thing.
You know, you would put a woman in a bikini.
No, but a woman puts herself, is what I learned. So what I learned during the process is that no one really, few people are forced into pageantry. It's a choice you make. It does celebrate the very, I guess, fickle aspect of being a woman, you know, of physical appearance. But it's something that is huge and has always been huge, and it's something that we'll never escape from. So why not celebrate it? One. Two, it's a tremendous stepping stone for a young woman. Laura Dutta explained that to me best in 2000 when she won Miss Universe. That's right. She was Miss India and she won Universe in 2000. She now has a phenomenal career as an actress, her own modeling school. But before becoming Miss India, Laura was a very well-respected model in India. She had done phenomenally well. You know, had big beauty contracts and fashion contracts, and bigger than she had as Miss Universe, as a matter of fact. And she said to me, you know, Wendy, I want to be a journalist. I want, you know, to be the Christian Yamapur of India. And she said, you know, when I competed at Miss India, just the casting in New Delhi, there was 60,000 young women who attempted to become Miss India that year.
Because they knew
that's right.
Propel them.
That's right. And that's what it gives you. It gives you a leg up. You know, so I always compare
No
it.
pun intended.
I always compare it to boxing for guys. And how come men don't get beaten up as much as we do? We celebrate beauty and they celebrate growth. Boxing is one of the professions in which you know, you make most money as an athlete. Think about it. In one night, you can get a purse of $30 million. Not even Will Smith earns that kind of money over the 6 months or 3 months it takes to shoot a movie. And what do you get? What are you getting props for? Beating up another guy.
Right.
But the way in which many boxers have been able to segue and use, you know, that opportunity to develop careers in other things, you know, to be activists, etc. You know, we don't beat up the guys nearly as much as we do ourselves as women, I think, in that regard.
But then, now that you won 1990, what doors have opened for you that would not have been opened before?
Ooh. You build, if you're smart, a global network as Miss Universe that you just can't with any other good temporary job. Even if you are the assistant to the Secretary of State in the United States, one like Hillary Clinton, who's racked up as many miles. The kind of relationships you build during your year, it is impossible to build those kind of relationships, even at the top of your game in anything else. You know, Rihanna is the #1 artist or rock star on the planet right now.
Right.
Undisputably. You know, yet, as a musician, you show up usually someplace, you do a sound check, you do a few interviews, you do your show, you get on a plane and you leave and you're on to the next venue. As an actress, it's very much the same thing. You know, the Angelina Jolies of the world have built their networks and the George Clooney's primarily through their activism. Their profession doesn't allow for that kind of interaction. Whereas Miss Universe, you don't become well known for anything other than being who you are. So the variety of activities you engage in during your year really facilitates, interactions with everybody. I clearly remember during my year having, breakfast with Kofi Annan at the United Nations and other goodwill ambassadors, and that afternoon I was on a plane to Puerto Rico meeting with victims who were living in a hurricane shelter as a result of a hurricane that had just hit the island. Think about how diverse that is in one 24-hour period.
And in your role, it is to bring visibility to these issues.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
But what are some of the disadvantages, though, of being Miss Universe?
That most people think if you look good, you can't have a brain too.
Yeah, but if they hear Wendy Fitzwilliams, they go, what, attorney?
It doesn't matter. It does not matter. That's, I think, one of the main disadvantages, perhaps. And the other is once you achieve tremendous success in one field, you have to work 4 times as hard as your competition, at least, to segue into another. Because you are so well known in a particular space. So like young women who have been in pageantry but who have not done phenomenally well go on to tremendous careers in other areas of entertainment as actresses like a Halle Berry, or in journalism like a not Christian Yamamoto, like a Diane Sawyer. Diane Sawyer was a Miss something, but she was not.
She didn't win.
That's right. She was not Vanessa Williams or Brooke Lee, who went on to win Universe and Miss America. So as a result, she got a break in journalism and was seen, built a career in that, had the opportunity to make a few mistakes but grow. If you are very visible in one space, the world is much less forgiving if you are not successful in another immediately.
Yes.
And that, I think, is the major disadvantage, but the advantages for me far outweigh the disadvantages.
Okay, because you really have pulled a point that, we as just people in the community, we have a preconceived notion of beauty. So had Diane Sawyer probably become Miss Universe, I don't know if we would have seen her relevance as a journalism as quickly. So you're right, we sort of do have, a preconceived notion, and we almost pigeonhole people.
Yes.
So yeah. Okay, well, let's just take a short break, because I know that we're moving into your music, living your passion, and you're so good at so many different things. Apart from being the lawyer and the author of your book, you also are moving into music, which is your passion.
Yes.
And have you ever explored that?
Music?
Yes. Before, the only time I knew that you were a singer back in 1998 when you sat on the stage and sang.
Well, like most of us, I think, I thoroughly enjoy music and singing, always have. I sang with, the school choirs at Duke Martin Girls RC, St. Joseph's Convent. My mom was a very active in La Petite Musicale, one of the very early members of that folk group here, and toured with La Petite. My sister and I tagged along a lot. But I didn't think of music as a career, that opportunity came up as a result of Universe. But I think many of us, just like you don't necessarily think you're going to go to Miss Universe and win. I thought I would do well, but I honestly did not think I was going to win Miss Universe. Because it's what are the chances? The odds are stacked against you.
You know what I remember most is that you were so poised when you heard that you won. Most people.
I was poised?
I thought so. I thought you put your hands over your face, but you were.
Well, I must start playing poker.
You were very poised. You didn't burst into all these tears and these.
What? Oh, I can't stand many of my crown shots to this day. I see them and I cringe because my eyes are red and I'm like tears all over the place. Natasha, you have to Google a few.
I have to go and check this out. But in keeping with the fact that it is Diwali on Tuesday,
yes,
and that we are celebrating this cultural, as you say, melange of who we are. We all celebrate it. I know I'm not putting up my Christmas tree until after Diwali because
Yes.
I am really a Diwali lady.
Me too.
And that's the beauty, as you say, that we are a hybrid. We are Trinidad and Tobago. We are very, very special and unique
That's right.
culture. So we're going to play something from a group, Pussycat Dolls, just because, of course, BQ Girls, and we'll just go into that a little bit. But this one is, of course, Jai Ho. Enjoy. Now that song really does bring celebration. I remember from Slumdog Millionaire at the end when everyone just got up and started to dance.
That's
and
right.
I just want to say thank you to our callers. We have such great listeners here on Heartbeat.
You do, Natasha.
Someone just called to say Jai Ho means victory, which I did not know. And we're talking about victory. As a woman, you know, you are victorious. You are a mom. There's your son being so, you know, very, very careful in the studio, knowing exactly how he's supposed to conduct himself. You really take him along to everything I've ever gone through. I see Elon in hand.
Oh, yes.
And of course, all the other things that you've accomplished. Let's talk a little bit about where you are now. BQ Girls, which means Beauty Queen Girls.
That's right.
So, Beauty Queen Girls, let's talk reinvention because at 40, which you are, and you're
That's
very
right.
comfortable to
Very
celebrate
comfortable
and say
saying
your
so.
age. At 40, when the music industry is teamed with girls as young as 15, how fearless are you to enter into the world of music, which is your passion?
Some would say Natasha probably a little bit crazy. But I say, another opportunity. I didn't plan to move into music at this point. I've been very focused on TV, radio, media, particularly, and writing more, which I still am.
And also your altruistic endeavors.
That's right. And a few months ago, in June of this year, Chelsea Cooley, who was Miss USA, or is Miss USA 2005, and we've kept in touch ever since Minute to Minute. We were on that show together, and we were one of the girls that just hit it off. And whenever I'm in New York, she's in New York, she's from North Carolina, we would get together and maybe have lunch or something like that. And she said to me she wants me, if I'm going to be in New York in June, I said, yeah, Chelsea. But I want you to meet me for like an afternoon or so. I want you to put aside an afternoon into evening for me. I said, sure, no problem. And she invited me to meet her in East Brooklyn. I was like, East Brooklyn? Does this chick know how to find East Brooklyn? Because East Brooklyn is the equivalent of Sea Lots here. It's warehouses, very minimal low-income housing, but primarily warehouses, very desolate.
Right.
Not the kind of place you want to hang out necessarily at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening. And I met Chelsea. It was a recording studio. She had put together with her manager a team of a production team. She was very much interested in putting a band together. And she and AT, her manager, had decided that they really wanted me to be in this band. Donald Trump is her mentor. Chelsea was one of the few Miss USAs who gained a lot of weight during her year and had a very, very difficult year. Both from the organization and from the American public. They were terribly unforgiving, and she whipped herself into shape and has maintained and is very healthy, has developed an excellent company in pageantry and entertainment training, like NASCAR drivers and that kind of thing, in media, etc. And Mr. Trump is her mentor. You know, she's very close to Mr. Trump, and I'm one of the title holders he likes, so he keeps me in the loop, as it were.
Right.
And she discussed with him a music career, and he thought it was a good idea. You know, Miss Universe and Miss USA has launched so many pop artists over the last 15 years since Mr. Trump acquired the pageant, from Justin Timberlake and NSYNC to Lady Gaga in 2008. You know, she was very much unknown until she performed at Miss Universe in Vietnam in 2008. Lady Gaga.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so many others. 98 Degrees, Carly Jepsen.
Yes.
And this, you know, they did that song at Miss USA, and it was the runaway hit for summer when I performed. Casey and Jojo were an R&B group. Still, their only pop crossover hit is the song that I walked my evening gown competition to.
Right. I remember that.
That's right. So, and that song stayed at the top of the charts for 2 months. So, Mr. Trump, you know, in guiding Chelsea, suggested, that she put together a group, because that was her manager's thought in the first place, 80s, that they put together a group, and they really wanted a cross-section of ethnicities and countries, not just a group of Americans.
So when she proposed this to you, what was your initial reaction?
She was smart because she did it in a studio. Now, if Charles had taken me to lunch with 80 and we were sitting down in the middle of Tribeca somewhere having this conversation, I would have given her the standard response I've given to everybody who has asked me to sing publicly in the last, 10 years. I sing to my son now.
Lucky boy.
But she was smart. She got me at a studio, so we're there, we're listening to great music, and we start jamming and singing along, and we sounded good together. There was another Miss USA with us, and a young lady who was Miss California of Korean American descent, and they decided not to be a part of the group. And Chelsea got me back to New York in August, and we basically put the group together in 48 hours. I arrived on a Sunday. By Tuesday, we had our teen, a little bit from Iowa, and we were auditioning for Mr. Trump on that Thursday. 2 days later,
What was his response?
His response was unreal because Mr. Trump is very good at not giving too much away, and he was in the midst of negotiating the host country for Miss Universe. So his lawyers were in his office, as was the president of Miss Universe when we rolled in, and he had no idea that I was going to be there. He thought he was having a meeting with Chelsea, and he's like, "Wendy, what are you doing here?" And Charles said, "Well, sir, we have a little something we'd like to show you." And that's it. We did Runway. We basically performed that song right there and then. He's the kind of guy, if he likes something, he goes with it immediately. And he asked us after the performance, what would we like? And Chelsea said, well, we want Miss Universe. And he said, okay, we're going to work very hard on making that happen. Paula, work with these girls and have them make this happen. This is the president of Miss Universe.
Yes.
3 of his lawyers were in the office at the time, and they were just floored, which is a good sign. They're in the midst of a tough meeting with him, and they're like bumping
So when is
and
Miss
having a
Universe
ball.
pageant?
It's December 19th this year. It's
And
very
you
late
will-
this
and
year.
BQ Girls will be performing?
Well, we haven't confirmed our performances yet because these things are very political and tricky. It's not only up to Mr. Trump and the Miss Universe organization. It's also up to the host country and the network, NBC, which is his 50-50 partner in the Miss Universe organization. The network always gives a hard time in terms of who's on that stage because the network doesn't focus on the 1.8 billion eyes outside of America that tune in. They focus on their advertising dollars only in America. So they would prefer to have a well-known American artist if the competition is in America. The host country always wants to feature their person, or someone from that region that is very popular. If the competition were outside of America, we would have had this in the bag. I'm convinced of that. Particularly given the countries with whom Universe was negotiating. And I happen to have a good relationship with many of those national directors and governments. But at this point, they're using our single Runway on the show, in very much the same way they used Carly Jepsen's single. And we'll see, they haven't decided as yet on the talent on the show. On the live telecast, that'll be decided at the end of the month.
Unique scenario because here you are with reigning reigning beauty queens, and you have an opportunity to showcase something other than this is like where they have gone to, and
that's right. The 4th member of our group who joined us from China only 2 months ago now, Ina, is amazing. And this girl came to the United States to be a part of us, for an audition with us. The national director of China is a very good friend of mine. I've actually interviewed her on my show, Yes I Can, but she's also the Oprah Winfrey meets Estee Lauder of China. And she runs Miss China. She found us this beautiful Chinese girl who was her second runner-up 2011, a very successful model in China. She won the talent segment of Miss China. She's a belly dancer. She sings phenomenally well, but had never left China. Had never left China before coming to the United States to be a part of BQ.
Wow. So this is really exciting when folks, we have Runway. We're going to be playing that in a few minutes. I just wanted to know, have you released this publicly?
Yes,
and
we
it's
have.
been played on the airwaves.
That's right, it is. fan base, particularly in the Philippines and Brazil, have really taken to it. And they're huge pageant fans, as you know. So, with this song identifies who we are, and it really is an anthem to mobilize our fan base.
Okay.
And then we expand.
All right, folks. So here you have an opportunity to listen to BQ Girls. This is called Runway. Folks, you just heard Wendy Fitzwilliams group BQ Girls with Runways. Just tell us a little bit about it. I liked it.
You like it?
Yeah.
Good.
What was your part in this?
In this
I couldn't discern
particular
which
song.
was your voice.
And that's sometimes the case with pop music. This song, Chelsea, Miss USA, sings lead. A little bit is our resident rapper. She's like a cross between, I don't know, Nicki Minaj, Betty Boo, and Marilyn Monroe. And she sings many of the high harmonies and she raps, and I do the lower harmonies and some of the ad-libs and a couple of the high ones too. I support Charles on a few of those. And the way this group will work is very much like the Spice Girls as opposed to the Pussycat Dolls. The Pussycat Dolls, we only know Nicole,
Scherzinger.
right?
Yeah.
None of the other members really. And the Spice Girls, everybody had their own identity and everybody did lead on different songs and that kind of thing. And that is the same idea with BQ Girls.
Right.
We are all distinct personalities, as you mentioned. I can be Lilbit's mother. She just turned 17.
Wow. But you still couldn't be her mother. And the way you look on those pictures, there is no way. You look just as though you are the same age as these kids. And
Well,
I want to
it's
move
called
into
Photoshop.
You have to know that Wendy's one of the most accessible people. You're really, really easy to connect with and very gracious. Wendy, in this world, I've always wanted to ask a person who has been in the beauty queen business. Do you like the word beauty queen first?
It doesn't bother me.
Okay, because you haven't used it.
Exactly.
Your band.
Oh, good, yeah.
A lot of people who put themselves forward in the beauty industry, I always think that they have a fear that their only currency of value is looks. And now that you're 40, I wondered how afraid are you of getting older?
Not at all, actually. As I said at the top of the program, beauty is a stepping stone, or my look, as was Halle Berry's looks for her, but she takes her craft as an actress very seriously. I take everything else I do very seriously. It's not the end, like your physical appearance.
But it's
just
a brand, though.
it's a means to an end, and I maintain it.
Very beautifully, I must add.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate what my looks have done for me. But I don't define myself by the way I look. In my head, it's almost separate and apart from who I am fundamentally. You know what I mean? So I treat my face and my body almost like a product, like something that I take care of, just like I won't throw my smartphone around because I don't want to break it, I need it.
Yes.
It's the same thing, but at the same time, I'm not obsessed by it. Like if the phone does fall and break, not that I can just like get another body,
Yeah.
but I move on. It's hard to describe. I don't place as much importance on my physical being as maybe others do. But I do appreciate the fact that it has opened doors for me because it allowed me to win Miss Universe. As I said, I wasn't one of these young women who from the age of 5 was like, I'm going to be Miss Universe one day. No. I always wanted to be a fashionable attorney. As far back as I can remember. And I'm the kind of girl who takes advantage of opportunities that come my way. So very much the same way BQ Girls was not given to me. I'm working very hard at making this a success. But at the same time, the opportunity presented itself.
Are you doing voice training as well?
Voice training, running and singing in cold weather for 8 hours a day. 2-hour workouts when we're together. And then 8 hours to 10 hours of dancing and singing every single day. It is tremendous discipline. When you see Beyonce on stage and she gets herself and her dancers to snap their head to the right at the end of the song, at the same time, all 40 of them, that takes about 2 weeks worth of work. It's a lot of work. People often say pop acts have no talent, and it's all a guy on a board in a studio making it happen. That's not strictly true. And usually for those who do that, they get called out very, very quickly. If you want to last in any business, you have to put the effort into it.
Wow. So let's talk, because I'm realizing time is flying by. But I still wanted to ask you about what are some of the fears, Wendy Fitzwilliams fears that you have?
Fears. I really don't right now have time to be too fearful. I have to succeed. Because I have my beautiful son to take care of and to make sure that he's fine. I used to be afraid of, as so many of us are here in the Caribbean, of failure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no longer fearful of failure, because failure, I've discovered, and that probably is the wisdom coming with age, you learn most from your failures, and it's out of your failures you usually build and do better. If you can appreciate the mistakes you've made in that light and move forward from them.
That gives you an opportunity to learn. And someone once
That's
told me,
right.
failure is not this falling down, it's this staying down. You got to get up and get moving.
Exactly.
And
So I right now, at this moment, I can't think of anything that I'm fearful of per se. I'm just really focused on my career and my child.
well, I really have to say that you seem fearless, because the book that you wrote, Letters to Elon, to me was a very fearless commentary upon your life. It was very, very personal. And the thing about it is, most people, because you live such a public life, that you could be fearful of the fallout, or being as vulnerable, because people can be so judgmental.
Yes.
And one of the things that I look at as a person on radio is that when I'm going through some of the commentaries on artists and performers and
it's
actors,
brutal.
you look at to me, they make the comment, and then you look at the blogging after, and people are not very, very happy. They're not really very supportive of other people. And when you live such a public life, I always wondered, even from the book Letters to Elon, what was the fallout, if any, for you? Because it seemed like a fearless thing to do.
It was, but I decided in publishing, I was always going to write that book, as I've said before, for my child, because I think that story and his story is important. I published it because I recognized that there were so many others who could identify with it. So many others who can identify with my story. It's not unique at all. It was, putting myself out there, and I knew it would cause a reaction and possibly start a discussion. But again, that discussion doesn't necessarily impact on me negatively. I don't see it as such. And, Mr. Trump once said to me, "Kid, you're nobody if no one's talking about you." So, and his philosophy is good or bad. Once they're talking about you, that's currency. Work it to your advantage.
Sure knows about that.
And I don't obsess about it. I don't read my own press. I save all of it, for Elon. I create scrapbooks, particularly with print stuff that's, written about me. But I don't read my own press. I don't. My sister made me Google myself a couple of years ago, and it was very scary, because at that time the first thing that showed up on the page was the first kidnapping on the Wendy Fitzwilliams Boulevard, and I was like, I don't want to know this, and then that's when I saw ugly little comments and about my busted feet. I know my feet are not pretty. I'm cool with that. I just and I wear them. They're out all the time. Right now I'm in thong sandals. So I just didn't want. I'm very careful about that. My litmus test in terms of how people feel about me is generally how people react to me one-on-one. If you get caught up in your own press, it's a very vicious, ugly cycle. I see so many well-known personalities trying to live up to their public image, trying to stamp out every negative thing that is said about them. I mean, Leanne Ryan just had to check herself into therapy because she was obsessing online about everyone that was calling her a home wrecker. Because she fell in love with and married someone. She and her now husband were married to other people at the time. And I'm like, girlie, if you're gonna do that and you're gonna do it
Maybe
publicly,
something.
yeah, like why would you read the blogs?
Yeah.
Clearly they're gonna mash you up. Get out there, make some good music, make some good movies, and people will move on. You know what I mean? Like you can't obsess about what people are saying about you. A friend of mine from Jamaica, at the time of my book launch, actually, said to me, I had made this comment there, and he said, Wendy, you're so right. What other people think about you is none of your business. I love that line. What other people think about you is none of my business.
That's right.
And I leave it there.
And really know your intention and
That's right.
there. And that's one of the things I think that when the first question I asked you really is about your family support, giving you that sense of grounding. And maybe Leanne didn't have that same sort of support that reminds you about your focus. This is what you're here for.
And I have to say, Natasha, before I published letters, you know, I had my mom read it because it was very important to me that she read it. I had my son's father read it. And one of my very good friends, who is my equivalent of Donald Trump. You know, he's my go-to guy. In New York as well, you know, with whom I share everything, and I talk to about any major decision I'm making. And he read it, and he said, "You're very brave, Wendy, but this is a beautiful story, and it deserves to be told." You know.
Okay, so let's just find out. Actually, you know what? I just want to say that it really is incredible. Some of the interviews that you've done. I always get a story from these people, that these incredible personalities that you've interviewed. There is always some message, and I'm definitely getting it in this interview from you. And it really is about staying focused, staying strong, and living your life to the fullest, and not really taking, you say, this body as seriously, but we should take this body as seriously. Every single one of us, whether you're queen or not. Because it's the only machine you'll ever own in your life. And it has to take you through your entire life.
And we'd like it to be a long, healthy life.
That's right.
You know, we talked about something earlier, and, you know, the way in which we here celebrate our age, you know, and are comfortable talking about our age as women. You know, there was a generation that didn't.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't care because I don't. I don't know why I don't. I haven't figured it out as yet.
It's looking damn good.
But it's because we're taking care of ourselves,
Yes.
and we are not only physically, but we're enjoying every phase of our lives.
Yeah. I know the time is going, but you know Wendy Fitzwilliams. The Wendy Fitzwilliams show usually goes into the Natacha Jones show. Like about 20 minutes, so I don't mind going in to ask you just a couple more questions because we're just ready to wrap up. But I really want to know about some of your hopes and some of your dreams.
Hopes, dreams. Number one on my list is to raise a well-rounded, very positive young West Indian male. You know, I am feverishly working on that, as is everyone in my life and Elan's life. And you know, in terms of my personal life, I do hope that I haven't given up on finding true love and settling down, and even at 40, giving Elan a sibling or two.
Yeah, I had my second at 41, so you still have a little time, Wendy.
And you know, professionally, as I said, I've segued into entertainment and media, and my goal is to become the Oprah of the Caribbean, meaning a global brand in that space, but very much rooted in the Caribbean. Wherever I go, I have always taken these islands with me, and Guyana. I love Guyana. And Guyana considers itself much more Caribbean than South American, and I plan to continue to do so.
Okay. And in terms of now you're bringing up a young man and a Caribbean man, you have a smorgasbord, a buffet of captain male prospects.
Where are they, Natasha? Guys, give a sister a call.
You're going to get in trouble with that comment. What are you looking for in your perfect man?
Guy who makes me laugh, is very comfortable in his own skin. That means he's not trying to compete with me. and can focus on us as opposed to the noise, I call it, that is around me and possibly always will be. Not that I work aggressively to attract that noise, but it's just there. And it's very difficult if you are well known, as you know, to find someone who can let go of all of the things that really are just on the outside and not allow those things to creep into relationship. You know, a fan maybe coming up to you, a guy coming up to you at a carnival fete, and you know, being very forward. And why? Because if you're a well-known personality, you've basically invited yourselves into that person's life. They know more about you than you'll ever know about them. And that's something.
And people feel they deserve a piece of you for
Yes.
some reason, being because they've given you support.
And they're kind of right, you know, if you think about it. You know, they didn't ask me to put myself out there and go off and become Missionary to Tobago Miss Universe and do all these other things. So,
Yeah, they want them to buy your record.
right, so they do have a little piece of me. They're entitled to that thought. You know, you have to know as a personality how to shut it down so you don't lose yourself in it. But, you know, it's very difficult for usually someone who wants to be with you. Guys are taught to be like number one. You know, a woman is still the supporting member of the cast. It's very hard for a guy in the public space to be the supporting member of the cast.
Yeah.
It's just very difficult. So I do hope to, you know, that.
Anyone in the horizon?
Well, I think so, but I'm very shy, as you know, about talking about that. But yes, I am dating someone who is delightful, very special, a little bit younger than I am.
I hate that.
Me too. I wouldn't say a cougar, but I've known him for a very, very long time, for over 20 years. And, you know, he's very mature in that regard, very focused in terms of where he wants to go, very supportive of me, gives very, very good advice, doesn't let me get away with rubbish.
Loves my child.
Loves my child, and most importantly, my child loves him.
Well,
you know, so.
Well, I think
we'll
we're
see.
just gonna start to wrap things up. We have you can introduce your girl Carly Rae Jepsen, because I know that's your song.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that song is Alan and my song. Alan, come here, honey. So, guys, we're going to end the show this week with none other than Carly Rae Jepsen. I look forward to spending this time with you. And what's that song called, Alan?
Call me maybe.
Yay, Call Me Maybe.
Is there anything else you wanted to tell your listeners before we get ready to head out?
Guys, have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for sharing this all with me, as always. Natasha's been a super co-host, and hit me up on Facebook. Let me know what you think of the show. This was, you know, a big change for us. And if you have any questions that you have for me, Natasha hasn't asked, drop me a note on Facebook, and if I use them next week on the show, I'll send you something special.
Yes. Okay, so there you have it. So folks, thank you so much. Wendy, thank you so much for being so candid.
Oh, Natasha, thank you. You're good at this, my friend.
Well, thanks Eva, for your patience and your support. And I wish you guys a beautiful, beautiful day.
Thank you, Natasha. To you too.
And I'm looking forward to hearing who you're going to be interviewing again next week. Okay, so we're going to wrap up with one of Alan's favorites, Carly Rae Jepsen, Call Me Maybe, here on Heartbeat 103.5 FM.